Hi everyone, this is Killshot from 99 Gaming. This is Game of Thrones, Thursday Thrones. This is our live broadcast as promised. We're going to ramp this up. I know we're some time away, but we do want to get up to date with some of the news, some of the debate, some of the chat. If I'm coming through loud and clear, give me a quick 999, represent the 999 Army. I'll talk about the family tree that's up there. We're not going to go through all of it. I do want to say the family tree, if you don't want to know who's in the show in future seasons, just look away from the screen. Don't pay a whole lot of attention to it. And it may not mean a lot to you right now, but for name reference, we will refer to it from time to time. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to go a little bit of recap from the season one, how that played out, some of the storylines there, so you can kind of catch up if you haven't started watching the show yet. We're not going to go through the whole season and tell you what's going on right now, so it's going to be a little bit of open debate, a little bit of dialogue. I will recap some of it. It will spoil it a little bit, so if you haven't seen season one, you need to go watch season one because we're going to talk about that. I do want to give a couple shout-outs, too. First of all, to Valar Morgullis. All men must die, says Dracarys. So thank you for that super chat. And then also a shout-out to all the moderators. Coming right back again. Shout-out 99 Army, Kill Steph, Kales, Emmy Bree, Sweet Tommy, sponsors and Patreon. So thank you so much for that. And so here we go. This is why I want to do a little bit of recap and get all of you involved. And first of all, to the Walking Dead fans out there, thank you for participating in this. Most of our fans do watch both. Some I know are here and said, I'm going to get around to it. Once I tell you a few things that are going to happen tonight, you watch the first 3 or 4 episodes and you really get sucked into it. So I also do want to say, these will be, because it is an HBO show, it'll be a lot stronger topics than what you're used to. I know that's not everybody's flavor of the day, but I do want to put it out there and let you know. And just be prepared. There are some shocking things that do go down. Tonight, we're going to talk about just some of the... When I first watched it, I was very shocked. Let me also give you my overall take on Game of Thrones. Is the first maybe 3 seasons or so, it has some pretty explicit content. It does tone down a little bit later on, so if you binge watch it, you go through it, just be prepared to not be sitting on the sofa with the kids watching. Just as an FYI. A little bit later on, still probably not, but it will. It seems to take a little different storyline. It's just kind of my take on it. Maybe season 4. But it is along those lines, but a very adult-themed. So we're going to start out, and feel free to chime in. Once again, you are the resident experts. I am not promising to know everything about Game of Thrones. I'm going to butcher some of the names. Just know that as we get started. Be prepared. I don't have all of the episodes memorized word for word. I haven't dug down in there. I've watched through it as a fan, but as you know, it's a little bit different to do commentary on something and to run a chat as opposed to just sitting back and enjoying it. But I will brush up a little bit more. So let's start out. Pretty shocking stuff just right out of the gates is we've got an episode out in the woods where there's a watch going on, and the guards are exposed to the White Walkers. There's some death. One gets away. And I think this is where I don't think the White Walker really shocked me. I think what shocked me more is when the guard runs back and starts babbling about what he saw, and they don't believe him. So at Winterfell, the guard basically deserted his post to come back, and whether Ned, who is the warden of Winterfell, believes it or not, I think he has to make a point. So I'm going to throw this out there, to Valar and a couple other resident experts. Do you think, based on the lore and the history, do you think that Ned had an idea about the White Walkers, and he just didn't want there to be chaos throughout the whole entire city? And he just wanted to kind of stifle that? because that's kind of the take that I got. And I haven't went back and sort of looked for every little detail, but there's so much legend and so much lore that is out there. I think he believed it. Okay. All right. Well, then we're on board with that. Drama King says he absolutely believed the guy. Zane says, I'm sure that Ned had heard, but honestly didn't believe. And probably didn't believe it to that level. So he kind of pulls out, in my mind, a phony charge and says he's a deserter. And as a deserter, he's got to die. And I think that was my first shocking moment in Game of Thrones, is when Ned said that he had to go through with the execution. And he was willing to put all of that weight on his shoulders. So we fast forward, exactly, killed him to silence him, very brutal. Then we get a couple things, and I may not go chronologically perfect, but there's some things going down. We find out a little bit about the king. So Robert Baratheon travels to Winterfell, and the hand of the king, I think it was it Jon Arryn, that had died. Now I don't know how he died. It was some at this point, it was mysterious circumstances, I think, early on, right? But Robert Baratheon is recruiting. He needs a new hand of the king. So he decides to pay a little visit to Winterfell, and this is where we get introduced to the rest of the family. And he brings Cersei, Jaime, and also Tyrion, Joffrey. And I got to tell you, I just was not a fan of Joffrey just from the first second that I laid eyes on him. And we won't get too far into it because after tonight's episode, some people may be listening in and you may start binge watching it to catch up. But I will tell you, you will hate Joffrey. You will hate him worse than any character on the show, more than likely. Exactly. I agree right there. But Robert Baratheon shows up and basically says, Ned, I need you to take over. You know, we're old friends. And Ned doesn't want to do it. Ned doesn't want to leave. He doesn't want to be involved in that. And he really is not given a choice. But that is not what is shocking. So, and still to this day, I think the most shocking scene took place. And that is we find out that Cersei and Jaime Lannister are twins. And Cersei is the queen. And not only are they twins, they're getting it on. They're getting it on up in the tower. So that when I saw that, first of all, as many people said, the incest scene was disgusting. But it also showed me that there are going to be no gloves. These are going to be bare knuckle fight. I mean, HBO is holding nothing back. So when I saw that, I was like, wow. So this is what's going down. And little Bran comes climbing up the tower, and now Ned's children are Arya, Sansa, Bran, and Jon Snow's the bastard. We'll get to all the children in a minute. Because Robert Stark, there's going to be things that go down with all of them. But Bran climbs up the tower and observes what's going on. He sees it. So he's probably like, what? This is the queen? And this is the queen's brother? So one of the classic lines, and that's still to this day, and watching is probably the most shocking moment, was Jaime Lannister saying, the things I do for love, and pushed him out of the tower. So you've got, not only do you have the incest scene, but you've got you've got Ned Stark's son seeing it, and then they're going to have to cover it up because they can't be found out, pushes him, and they assume that he's dead. So I think in season 1, those two scenes alone, just the Ned killing the guard and Bran being pushed after the incest scene, and you're like, wow, what's going to happen with Bran? Now, we do find out a little bit later on, Bran becomes a big part of the story. So he doesn't die. But pretty rough shape. So I have to ask, I got to ask the group this because we are debating, and I'm going to get to some of your comments. One of my favorite characters on the show is Jaime Lannister. I'm sorry, but I know that's a little warped, and you'll find out later on. He's very likable. He can be very likable. But he has a history. Okay, well, there's a lot of people that love Jaime. It's good. Casey's like, I like him now. So, I'm going to draw a Walking Dead comparison. Jaime was pretty downright despicable in some cases. Could we learn to like Negan the way we learned to like Jaime Lannister? Do you guys see a little bit of a parallel there? Chris Adcock says Jaime and Negan. Yep, I mean, very interesting. All right, so let's fast forward, and now Ned has to pack it up. And Ned has to... all right, hold on. We got a super chat here. So Valar says, just to add, there are more underlying things for the events happening. People need to see the whole series and do homework to understand. Definitely well said. So we're going to give a little bit of an overview, and I think that as we do more and more streams, and kind of to plant the seed for these streams, sort of the way we started doing Walking Dead, to be honest with you. I started Walking Dead, I think, season 5, season 6 might have been, is when we started doing broadcasts. And pretty average following, debate, conversation, and you learn a little bit more of the history as you go. And I will tell you, going through and watching it one time, you don't get everything. But the more we stream, the more we talk about it, the more stuff that's in the news, it will, I think it'll resonate with everybody. And then the current news and some of the stuff that we're going to add to these streams. Sometimes we're going to talk about episodes. Sometimes we'll talk about favorites. We'll talk about some of the clues that are there. And we'll most definitely talk about some of the news that's out there. But before we get into current news, I really want to just sort of work our way up to it. Timothy, to a degree, we are going to go. I mean, and there will be tidbits of other stuff, but I do want to kind of ramp it up from season to season and talk about some of the most shocking moments. Because, you know, clearly you start with season 1, and we may skip around a little bit, but those two things really, I think, were very, very impactful. So we've got Ned, and Ned is getting ready to head out to King's Landing. And his two daughters are coming along. So you got Arya and you got Sansa. Sansa already has an eye on Joffrey. Call it youth, whatever. Something about Joffrey appeals. Probably his title, the future king. So of all the things that Joffrey will do, for the most part, Sansa will be able to turn a blind eye to it. And I'm going to tell you, it is going to be major. Naive, wants the power, the fairy tale life. But then we've also got the bastard son, Jon Snow. And in this day and age, being a bastard was a big deal. Especially with Catelyn. So, Ned's wife has to really look at Jon Snow as that reminder. And they do not hit it off. And it's more because Catelyn's never able to accept Jon. So we find out that Jon is going to he's going to be on the Night's Watch. And we don't know a lot about the Night's Watch at this point. We just know it's a big wall, and you got to go up and guard the wall. So the equivalent is he's going to have to go serve in the military, right? He's being sent away. He's being sent overseas to serve his time. So Chris Adcock says, another comparison, Sansa then and now, Maggie then and now. There are a lot of parallels between the characters. Now, let me chime in with something else. Because, and this is personal taste. You can agree or disagree. And this is mainly directed at the people that have not watched Game of Thrones. I would say the writing, the story, the adventure in Game of Thrones is better for me. I think it's a better show. And I've played a lot of Walking Dead games. I've watched a lot of Walking Dead. I like to consider myself pretty astute when it comes to Walking Dead. And over the last 3 years, a lot of work has went into that with the characters and the writers and the predictions. From an entertainment standpoint, I enjoy Game of Thrones more. You probably might find that a little hard to believe. Now, being an expert on it is a whole different level. So it does take a little bit of time to really get into the history in the moment. And recapping this and going through it, I'll probably watch it 3 or 4 more times, and then the knowledge will definitely increase. True. I have not gotten into the wolves. So, and that is the House Stark, right? Their symbol is the wolf. And some really good wolf scenes. So Ghost is Jon Snow's pet. And some pretty amazing loyalty. So we're going to move it right along a little bit, and I will recap in just a second. So while Ned, Sansa, and Arya are going to King's Landing to sort of settle in, we get another story kind of simultaneously happening. And as Valar mentioned a little earlier with Dracarys, not yet, but we get Daenerys Targaryen and I think it was, and Viserys? Viserys was her brother? Correct me if I'm wrong with that. And they are the last remaining heirs of the Mad King. So we find out that there's some history there. That Viserys feels like he's the rightful heir to the throne that Robert Baratheon has, and he needs to stake his claim. But the problem is, he's a little wimpy dude that is high on wanting power, but he has nothing. He has no army, and the only thing he has is he's got a hot sister. So he decides that he wants to take his sister and marry her off to Khal Drogo. So, and by doing that, he's going to get the army he needs and take over the throne. Nerve MOS. Hey, there is a argument for Stannis, and we will get into that in future episodes. So there's a whole lot of stuff that goes down with Daenerys, and she basically kills the wife of Khal Drogo, and her brother is very, very greedy, so he steps up at the wrong time. And he ends up getting a gold crown. So I won't go more in detail with that because I do want you to binge watch that part of it. Pretty awesome stuff, though. He got a pretty gruesome death. And then I would say you're kind of left at the end of season 1 to sort of ponder, like, wait a minute. We know that he's got these eggs, and Daenerys is the mother of dragons, and she's starting to get this control. Her brother was losing control over, and now she is. Now there's a lot of fill in the blanks here. There's a lot of interesting stuff with Khal Drogo and Daenerys, and some adult scenes there. There's some Tyrion Lannister scenes, some adult scenes there. So believe me, there's probably not many episodes that you're not seeing a lot of flesh, and it's part of the story. So if that's not your thing, you can tune it out a little bit and just, it's over in a couple of minutes. But you'll get back to the story very, very quickly. Meanwhile, at King's Landing, it is not going well. So Ned finds out that Joffrey is not Robert Baratheon's real son. And when Cersei gets confronted with it, she basically says Jaime is the father of all her children. What? Ned gets locked up for treason. And what's really neat about the Ned situation is Joffrey sitting there and Sansa sitting there, and Arya is out in the crowd, and this was probably the third most shocking moment for me in season 1. Ned Stark, who I thought was going to be the star of the show, gone. Chop. So that totally blew my mind. And I think that's some of the highlights, really. I don't want to go through, like I said, we won't go through every single episode because we are going to catch up. We'll just recap some of the seasons. I want to kind of, people that don't watch it, that follow our channel and join in for the live streams and know that we do a lot of extensive Walking Dead chat, I just want to give an overview of what you can look forward to and how it's shocking. And even if you know, like Tommy, for example, Tommy, if you haven't watched it, if you binge watch it, it is absolutely amazing. Because when you see some of this stuff go down, you realize that the writers, they will kill a leading person off in a heartbeat. Gone. But all of these things that happened and were observed are very important to the future story. And what we're going to do is, on a week-by-week basis, it won't take us but a few weeks in order to get through where we're current. And then we're going to start taking some of these videos and we're going to dig down a little bit further and talk about the whys and the hows. We will talk about shocking scenes, deaths, and then we're going to transition some of these chats to more of a countdown, because as Game of Thrones next year, it is going to be probably one of the biggest television events ever. Every episode we're going to be counting down and talking about and right here, but we got to get all the news out there and we got to get everybody up to speed. So once again, I'm just going to do a call out. If you haven't watched it and you participate in these chats, just binge watch it. You can do it in a few days. So, some of the comments are definitely cracking me up. I do agree. Jake from State Farm, I agree that Game of Thrones is better than Walking Dead. And I would have loved to start watching. I started watching Game of Thrones last year, and in a few weeks I was done with it. Just binge watched it, loved it, couldn't stop watching it. But the dialogue, the chat, the conversation will be just as good as we get into next season. So the one thing that I'm going to ask is, some of you watching the playback, if you're not familiar with 909 Gaming, the 909 Army, subscribe to us, get involved. We got people that want to know more about Game of Thrones. I certainly do as a host. We are going to continue the chat, though. We are going to develop it more and more as we do this countdown and build a little bit of that following. We're never going to get away from Walking Dead. So absolutely, we're going to be here. We're going to do our Fear the Walking Dead streams. We're going to do our Walking Dead definitely every October and run that through. But there's such a following of Game of Thrones. And the question I'm going to ask for everybody here is, do you think there will be a spinoff to Game of Thrones once Game of Thrones ends next season? And I'm going to have you answer that question in 1 second, because this is absolutely Jason Mixologist Daily with a super chat. And thank you so much. That is an awesome super chat. Says, this is to the 909 Army. The more you dig into Game of Thrones, the more you appreciate the show. Binge watching all the seasons just gives you half the information. Game of Thrones really is about trying to dissect the mind of George R. R. Martin. So very well said. And the level that we break down Walking Dead, we will break down Game of Thrones. But they're different, they're varying degrees of expertise here. And I'd say from a 1 to a 10, I'm probably about a 4 right now. And that is just as a fan, but it's going to be on the up and up. But certainly, those of you out there that are hardcore, that are into it, that go to the Comic-Cons and dress up and know the history, we're going to need you. We're going to need everybody that's out there that's watching the playback, everybody that's involved in these videos. Your comments, your participation is vital in helping us build that network and that following. So Case says, I would watch a spinoff. Brienne of Tarth. Look, I think they could go in so many different directions. Well, depending. And this news is out there that they're possibly filming multiple endings. I heard that rumor. Not confirmed, just a rumor. It's out there at this point. But for Season 8, nothing would shock me. But if a few survive it, and it looks very, very bleak at the moment, so great tidbit here from Villar. A tidbit, game starts 18 years after Robert's Rebellion. And Robert's Rebellion is what took Viserys and Daenerys' father out of power. So there's an 18-year. What would Villar, any tidbit on the age of the two of them at the time? There you go. And let me say this, if you're just in chat to complain about other people and dislike a video, then why be in the chat? There you go. Problem solved. So let me say this, as some people are going to watch the playback. If Game of Thrones and learning about the show and being involved in the 999 Army is not your thing, then don't participate. We want the people to participate that want to develop it, want to talk about. And we will. I have to be careful how I say this because we have a niche broadcast that we do, and it's a very tight group. It's a very tight family with Walking Dead. And as you start to talk about a different show, whether we do Infinity Wars, whether we do Marvel, whether we do Game of Thrones, we're always going to get new people that haven't watched our streams. And there will be some weeding out because not everybody, it's not that not everybody has a right to an opinion. It's the way people present their opinions that really decides whether you stay or whether you don't stay. Certainly we respect everybody's opinion, but how aggressive or how that just is not conducive to good chat. And that's the way the 999 Army is always going to be. It's going to be, that's the way we build it. It does. So, Jason, I would say some of the first streams we did for Walking Dead were definitely, I mean, there were experts and there were people that were very impatient with some of the new people that wanted to learn it, wanted to ask questions. The other thing that I would throw out there to the group too is if you have a question, type it. And bring my attention to it because I do want to call on some of the new people that want to learn it because that's the way we build our network and that's the way we build our group. And I will definitely defer to Jason or Villar or Walking Dead Nerd or other people. I agree. And Andy Lynn, bold prediction. 2 months from now, OU Crawfish will be talking about how awesome the show is. If Crawfish has not watched the show and he binge watches, I guarantee you it'll be hook, line, and sinker. So Dwayne Sharp says, sorry, you may be right about the show. I keep track of by John's age. I keep wanting to think the show aged them up to 16, but they did make them 18, didn't they? I'll wait for that answer. All right, so here we go. I'm going to throw this out there, and we're going to call this the Crawfish Challenge. The Crawfish Challenge, everybody. We need OU Crawfish to watch 4 episodes. Only 4. Before next Thursday. If you want OU Crawfish to watch 4 episodes before we stream next Thursday night, type a 999 in chat right now. And let's see. Let's see if the Army is going to pressure you into watching it. And if so, Crawfish, if you take the challenge, you have to report back next Thursday and let us know whether you're on board or you're not on board. Fair enough? I think we've thrown down the challenge. So, all right, Crawfish is up. The Crawfish Challenge has been, I would say the whole season, but let's just give him 4 episodes. 4 episodes. If it's not his thing, don't watch it. I agree, Paul. Paul Rice says he'll be hooked in the first 30 minutes. So Jason Mixologist says, you know what? He will change his name too, right? He'll be Crawfish of the North. I won't do that as a bold prediction. Walter White wants to know, are there spoilers? Yeah, well, there are stage spoilers. So we're going to recap. We recapped most of season 1. So Crawfish kind of knows what to expect. But it's one thing kind of listening and then watching it. So we're not spoiling anything that hasn't happened, but I guess if you never watched the show, you know, spoiler recap, it really depends on perspective. But we're only talking about season 1 right now. Now, I'm going from a few notes and a lot of memory, so there were mistakes I'm sure that I made tonight. There is a family tree up there if you want to refer to just the different houses, some of the different characters that you'll become familiar with. I think I got it for the most part with some help from some other people, but I am going to I'm going to dig down much more because I feel like there's just things that I want to be able to kind of chit-chat about, and there will be some sidebars, and I just don't pick up on every little piece of it. Welcome back, Zane. We still have sound. I'm just reading through a couple comments. Villar, who is 41? I think I missed some of the previous chat. Okay. Robert Baratheon's 41. Now, Crawfish, here's the thing. I didn't go through and give you the complete recap, step by step, of everything that happened. There's a whole lot of stuff. I just gave you kind of some of the most shocking moments and a little bit of how the story is going to play out. But let me also say this. The character development is absolutely amazing. The acting is unbelievable. Let me say this. Do you know how some of us were not big Madison fans in Fear the Walking Dead because we didn't like the story and also we thought the acting was kind of borderline? I can't recall seeing what I thought was one bad actor on Game of Thrones. I'm going to throw this out to the experts. Not a bad character, but those of you that have really dug down into Game of Thrones, and actually some of you that are watching the playback as well, please leave in comments. Can you think of one of the actors on Game of Thrones that you didn't feel like was a top-notch actor? Hodor? For those of you new, and it'll probably come out at some point, I did get that. I actually knew the meaning of his name without a spoiler. That was like one of my few claim to fames. Like very early on. Drama King says Bran is a terrible actor. I'll get back to that in 1 second. Valar, I agree. All the actors, there's no doubt, all the actors they chose to play in the series were on point. Absolutely unbelievable. I was just kind of watching, and because so many people had hyped it up more so than The Walking Dead. And keep in mind, I started around maybe 5.5, maybe 6 on The Walking Dead. It took me a while. I mean, I watched Blacklist, a lot of different TV shows, but The Walking Dead, I had to just go binge watch it. And I was hooked. Like, wow, this is amazing. Now I see what everybody's talking about. Game of Thrones was more hype than that. So when I'm watching, I'm already watching with really, really high expectations. So so I'm going to make sure that this person that is just completely lewd and inappropriate is no longer a part of our stream. So that's a little bit how it works, everybody. If you guys caught that, thank you, Casey. We can certainly have good conversation about a TV show without acting like we're about 12. You know what? That's funny. I said 12, and Andy Lynn typed 12, like exactly that moment. That is bizarre. So, kind of back before the child entered the stream there. watching it with super, super high expectations and then it exceeding all of my expectations blew me away. And kind of just to reference what we talked about before, we will build a forum, we will build a network, we'll build just an awesome Game of Thrones following, but we will do it with the right group of people. We won't do it with a bunch of tacky, juvenile, childish, utterly ridiculous type of people. We'll do it with people that want to be a part of good conversation and want to learn the show and want to appreciate what we do. So, unlike some other YouTube channels that are out there, we don't need everybody, and we'll be very selective in who participates with us. So that's my promise to all of you here. So I don't want anybody to get in a point where they feel uncomfortable. I mean, we have some fun, but you have to do it within reason. The Crawfish Challenge says, I'm going in with 0 expectations. If you're going in with 0 expectations, it's going to blow you away. All right, so we are about 47 minutes. I was going to keep it about 30 minutes and do an overview. I'm just going to open it up right now for any conversation, any chat, any thoughts, any Season 1 things that, important things that might have happened that I could have overlooked in the chat. And I'm just going to call in a couple people. We got another 2 or 3 minutes here, and then we'll wind this thing down. And as a reminder, while I'm waiting on some of your chat to show up, do want to say we are going to do Freestyle Friday tomorrow. Don't know what the topic is going to be. Could be Game of Thrones, could be Walking Dead. It is going to be a topic, and the way that works is we are going to mix it up. You are going to control the dialogue. I'm going to come up with one thing, and then somebody chimes in with a super chat. We're going to talk about what they want to talk about. So whatever the topic, you control it. I'm going to be researching it, trying to figure out what we're talking about. It could go south. It could be absolutely nuts. Or could be a heck of a lot of fun. Who knows? We're going to try that on Friday night. Then we'll do it every 2 weeks. So we're going to skip a Friday and then just kind of just see how it goes. Game of Thrones, Thursday Thrones, we're going to do every Thursday night. And, of course, Sunday is our big day. We will be back to doing What If this Sunday. We're going to do a Fear the Walking Dead countdown, also reactions. If you are new for the first time, subscribe and join us on our 909 Army page, and you'll get updates, and we'll let you know when the streams are. Zane Thomas says, with a super chat, I know I missed a bit earlier, but tell me, do you think that Robert Baratheon was underdeveloped? Because I very much did. I did not... I don't have a basis to compare him to in the books, but I wasn't attached to him. I don't think... I think the Ned Stark thing was probably one of my biggest shockers, so I just sort of accepted Robert Baratheon. I don't think I needed any more of him. I would say no. But it's going to be personal taste. Villar says, Zane, I think he was too. Timothy Young says yes. Jason says, I didn't think so. More character development in the show. So those that have read the books and also watched the show, if you don't mind, I want to make a Walking Dead comparison and ask you to think about this and then Game of Thrones. And I will do this because this is going to help me understand it. So Shane in the comic was not a big piece of the comic, but he was a big part of the show. Lasted longer in the show. I mean, he only made it through, what, like 6 issues of the comics. Has Judith to live on. Compare Shane in the comic and Shane on the show to Robert Baratheon's role in the book and Robert Baratheon's role on the TV show. If you guys could do that for me. And then I'll probably have to go back and read the books at some point. These are going to be the questions that I ask, and I'm asking for myself and maybe for the group a little bit. So Zane says the opposite. Robert was far more developed in the book, and in the show, I would have liked to seen that play out. So the opposite of Shane. Okay. That makes sense for me. All right. Mina says Shane's arc. Okay, flipper. Okay, that makes sense to me. All right. I may ask questions exactly like that just to get a better feel for it. So let's wind this stream down. I want to say thank you so much. Very fun first stream for me just to get the dialogue going again. I want this to be like the one-stop shop for Game of Thrones. Well, not one-stop shop. That sounds silly. I want this to be the place where all of us converge to talk about what we get all over the place, whether it's other YouTube channels or experts that are digging into it. I guess I want this to be the part where we can come compare notes and sort of learn it. That's what I'm looking for. And then we'll create some really, really solid ideas. And keep in mind, these streams are real-time chat. So you don't have to go to a forum and post something and then reply and read and look for it. We kind of get it live. And the one thing that'll happen is the streams will start going faster and faster and faster as we get a little bit more knowledge. Thank you so much. If you're new, I'm going to do shout-outs at the end of every video because I appreciate everybody that's in the stream. Do want to say thank you to all the patrons that are out there. Also, the sponsors as well. You can see in the bottom corner. Of course, the super chatters, Jason the Mix, also Valar. Appreciate your contributions to this channel. Definitely highlighting and freeze framing those. Zane Thomas. Zane, brand new Patreon supporter, also with the super chats as well. And they do assist because your super chat spotlights give me a chance to sort of zone in and talk about whatever that highlighted color area is, and we're all going to get a good takeaway from it as well. Thank you so much. Let's do the shout outs. If you're watching the playback at this point, this is the closing credits. If you're still here, give me a quick 999, and once again, we will do Freestyle Fridays tomorrow night, and next Thursday we got the Captain Crawfish Challenge, where he has to watch 4 episodes, and he's going to report back to us and tell us, as someone that knows nothing about it with zero expectations, what his thoughts were, and will also drop in a little bit of current news in future streams as well. So thank you so much, everybody, and let's get to some of these shout-outs. I want to say what's up to Zane Thomas. Ron Burgundy, appreciate you being here. Also, Valar, you're welcome. So we're definitely going to start it. It takes a little bit of time. Jason, all of you guys that are involved in this are really, really hardcore. Drama, New York City. Thank you so much, everybody. You are going to be my go-to people on this. Andy Lynn, appreciate your thoughts as well. Bumblebee Brown. And keep in mind, everybody, about half of the people watching tonight and in the future, they're like me. They know a little bit about it. So you guys are really going to have to keep us in check. And if we screw up on something, then let us know about it. Jake from State Farm, 3 a.m. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Drama King. And appreciate it. Glad you guys had a good time. I know it's a starting point. Maboon, thank you so much. Maggie B. Brian Gilligan, thank you so much. There is probably not a show that the 999 Army cannot talk about, and I'm not talking about me. I'm kind of driving the boat, but you guys are the engine behind the boat. But I think any show that's out there collectively as a group, we will get to a point where we can break it down, we can analyze it, we can understand it, because there's just so much knowledge in this group. So appreciate it. Sons of Anarchy, probably not, but I do know somebody that does a good job talking about Sons of Anarchy. Thank you, Walking Dead Nerd. Appreciate you being here. I will see you tomorrow as well, Timothy Young. Appreciate it. Also, moderators, thank you so much. Emmy, Steph, Kel, Tommy. I do love Blacklist, E-Beach. I don't know that we would have enough to talk about Blacklist. I mean, certainly with Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, and we do want to bring in a lot of experts. We want to bring in a lot of people who love talking about it, if they, the personality is conducive to what we want to do. But there's a lot of good Game of Thrones fans out there we'd love to have participate in our chat. Nature Boys, King of the North. So, you guys will have to bend the knee to Valar and also Jason the Mixologist. Kel wants to talk about Raymond Reddington. Maybe that could be a Freestyle Friday topic. That might be one of the things that we talk about. And shout out to Sharon B as well. All right. Thanks, everybody. If I missed a couple people in shout-outs, make sure you leave it in the comments below. If you know a Game of Thrones expert you want to bring to our chat, get them involved. We'd love to have everybody part of the group. So give this video a thumbs up. Dracarys, the like button. I see a t-shirt coming. That may be the newest thing. So, yes, make sure you guys light that like button on fire. I'll talk to all of you hopefully tomorrow night if you can make it. If not, I'll definitely see you Sunday. Peace, everybody.